Thank you for choosing wisdom of the Dharma. If you found this video insightful, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, so you never miss a new update. Your support helps us keep sharing powerful, life-changing wisdom with the world. And don't forget to drop a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Let's grow and learn together. Part 1: The Hidden Doorway to Prosperity. There's a question I've asked myself many times over the years. Why do some people, even those living in beautiful homes, constantly feel like something's missing? They have the job, the family, the big house with elegant marble floors. And yet, their finances feel stuck, their opportunities dry up, and peace slips through their fingers like water. I've come to see a pattern, and it's not what you might expect. Years ago, I met a man during a retreat in Santa Fe. He was in his early 50s, owned a successful design firm, lived in what most would consider a dream house, sunlight streaming through high ceilings, a garden with fountains, and all the markers of success. But his energy was different. He seemed hollow, tired. I don't know why, he confessed, but ever since we moved in, things just slowed down. Work contracts fell through, my wife and I argue more often, and I can't sleep. It doesn't make sense. I stayed silent at first. But later, as I walked through his home, I asked gently if I could see the bathrooms. He looked puzzled, maybe even embarrassed. The bathrooms? He laughed. They're just bathrooms. But that was exactly the problem. In my years of studying both Buddhist space awareness and Feng Shui, I've come to believe something deeply. The bathroom is not just a functional space. It is an energetic exit point, a forgotten gate where fortune can quietly slip away. Most people clean it, decorate it, maybe throw in a scented candle. But they rarely think of it as sacred space. And yet, the bathroom contains the most concentrated yin energy in the home. And if left unattended, spiritually and energetically, it becomes a black hole where abundance, clarity, and motivation dissolve without warning. That day, I shared with him something I had learned from a monk during my time in northern Thailand. A practice so simple, so ordinary, that most people would ignore it, placing one specific item in your bathroom, not as decoration, but as a silent guardian of wealth energy. I'll tell you exactly what that item is. But before we get there, let me take you on a journey, through elements, through energy, through space, and through real lives transformed by small shifts in awareness. Because prosperity doesn't always arrive with a bang. Sometimes, it begins in silence. In moisture. In shadows. In the room you've always overlooked. Let's begin. Part 2: The Secret of the Yellow Towel. I didn't believe it at first, either. When the monk first mentioned the yellow towel to me, years before I ever met the man in Santa Fe, I thought it was just a poetic metaphor. We were sitting under a Bodhi tree at dawn. The air was damp with mountain mist, and the only sound was the echo of cicadas in the forest. "Place earth where water is strong," he said, handing me a folded towel, golden like turmeric. "Let stillness meet movement. That's where fortune begins." It wasn't until much later, when I began studying Feng Shui in depth, that his words started to take on meaning. In classical 5 elements theory, each element supports or controls another. Water nourishes wood. Fire burns wood. Earth contains water. And metal is born from earth. That last link, earth gives birth to metal, is where the secret lies. Because in Feng Shui, metal represents money, material wealth, and precious resources. And earth is its mother. So when you introduce earth energy into a space dominated by water, like a bathroom, you're stabilizing the flow of fortune. You're grounding the yin so it doesn't spiral out. And what better symbol for earth than the color yellow? It's no coincidence that in ancient Chinese palaces, yellow was the color of emperors. It represents nourishment, gravity, the center. In psychology, yellow evokes warmth, optimism, and clarity, exactly what most bathrooms lack energetically. So I began recommending this practice to people. Hang a clean, bright yellow towel in your bathroom. Not folded away. Not forgotten in a drawer. But visible, present, preferably near a mirror or towel rack where energy circulates. Some people report changes within days. Others, weeks. But what's consistent is the shift in atmosphere. I've watched clients begin sleeping better, arguing less, receiving job calls they thought were lost causes. The man in Santa Fe? He reluctantly tried it, almost jokingly. But a month later, he emailed me, weirdest thing. My wife and I haven't fought in 3 weeks. And yesterday, an old client reached out with a project I thought was dead. Of course, it wasn't just the towel. It was his attention, his intention, and his shift in energy. But the towel was the doorway. And here's something most people don't realize. Feng Shui is not about magic. It's about alignment. When your environment reflects harmony, your life tends to follow. The yellow towel works not because it's mystical, but because it reminds your home, and your mind, of balance. Sometimes, all it takes is a soft splash of color in the right place to whisper to the universe, I'm ready now. Let it flow. Part 3, Light as Dharma. Illuminate your space, awaken your mind. I've always found it fascinating that the first thing Siddhartha saw upon attaining enlightenment wasn't some cosmic vision or distant deity, it was the morning star. A single point of light in the vast darkness. And from that moment, he became the Buddha, the awakened one. It's no accident that light, in almost every tradition, is a symbol of truth, awareness, and liberation. But we often forget that this same principle applies. Even in the smallest corners of our homes. Especially the bathroom. Most bathrooms are tucked away, built for privacy and practicality, not for beauty, certainly not for energy flow. They tend to be dark, windowless, and filled with yin energy, still, moist, and heavy. And yet, this is where water flows, symbolically, this is where wealth energy begins or ends. So if you want prosperity to move, to brighten, to wake up in your life, you must begin by illuminating this space. Not just with electricity, but with intention. I once stayed with a friend during a snowy winter in Vermont. Her home was cozy, full of rustic charm. Except for one room. The bathroom was dim, lit by a single cold blue bulb that cast long shadows on every wall. The moment I entered, I felt a drop in mood, an invisible pull inward. She confessed she hated being in there. And oddly, she said she always felt sluggish after showering. I asked her to try something simple. Swap out the light bulb for a warm yellow one, add a small motion-activated LED near the floor, and place a reflective bowl of Himalayan salt under the sink. The change was instant. It feels like sunrise in there, she told me later. Even my kids started brushing their teeth longer, go figure. In Feng Shui, light is yang energy, it moves, it uplifts, it pushes out the stagnant. In Buddhist symbolism, it's the Dharma lamp, the flame of insight. So why not treat your bathroom light like an altar light? Let it shine. Let it clear. Let it speak to your subconscious. You are not hiding. You are home. Even flickering bulbs matter. A blinking light isn't just annoying, it signals instability. Disruption. Like a wandering thought in meditation that breaks your focus, it scatters energy. When you choose to keep your lighting warm, clean, and steady, you're not just creating ambience. You're sending a message, into the room, into yourself, that you are ready for clarity, flow, and illumination. And sometimes, that's all the universe needs to respond. Part 4, Cleanliness is Inner Karma, How Space Mirrors the Mind. There's a saying I once heard from an old Zen gardener. The way you sweep your floor is the way you handle your karma. At the time, I thought it was poetic. But now, after years of observing how people live, and how their spaces speak louder than their words, I believe it's deeply, spiritually true. One of the clearest indicators of someone's inner state is the condition of the space they live in. I've seen this time and again, not in temples or grand houses, but in the most mundane corners. And none more telling than the bathroom. Years ago, I visited a former student in Portland. She had been going through a tough stretch, financial anxiety, chronic fatigue, and a creative block that had lasted nearly 6 months. Her apartment looked fine at first glance, sunlight, candles, cozy bookshelves. But when I entered her bathroom, something shifted. The mirror was streaked with residue, the grout between the tiles was darkened with mildew, and long strands of hair curled around the corners of the floor like dried vines. She shrugged when I mentioned it. "It's just the bathroom," she said. But here's the truth. The bathroom is not just anything. In Feng Shui, it's one of the most energy-sensitive spaces in the entire home. It absorbs what we release, physically, emotionally, energetically. And like a sponge left untouched, it can grow dark with what we haven't processed. But beyond Feng Shui, I thought of something else. In Buddhist practice, we often speak of chitta, the heart-mind, and how it accumulates impressions over time. Like dust on a mirror. If we do not wipe it clean through mindfulness, reflection, and right action, it grows cloudy, reactive, heavy. So what happens when your bathroom collects grime? The same thing. The outer mirrors the inner. I gently invited her to treat her bathroom as an altar. Not for incense or candles, I said, but for clarity. I asked her to begin a weekly ritual, on Sundays, where she would clean not just the obvious spots, but the forgotten corners, under the sink, behind the toilet, the tile lines, the light switch. To breathe slowly as she scrubbed. To visualize each swipe as releasing some burden, old thought, old pain. 3 weeks later, she messaged me. Her words were simple, "I feel lighter. I can breathe again in my own home." And I started writing. Was it just the cleaning? No. It was the attention. The intimacy with her space. The act of caring for her environment the way one would care for a sacred place. Hair on the bathroom floor, stained grout, soap scum, these aren't just signs of laziness. In Feng Shui, they are symbols of stuck qi, of unprocessed life moments, and emotional residue that hasn't been fully let go. And what's fascinating is that the more we avoid cleaning, the more our energy dims. We stop seeing opportunities. We feel exhausted. And life seems to press down heavier and heavier, like a room with no ventilation. But the opposite is also true. When we clean, consciously, patiently, gratefully, we begin to reset the energetic current. Just like wiping a fogged mirror reveals your own reflection again, cleaning reveals the version of you that has been waiting beneath the layers. So here's something you can try. Set aside one day each week, maybe Sunday morning. Light gentle instrumental music, open a window, and clean your bathroom as if it were a place of healing. Not a chore. A ceremony. Breathe. Scrub. Smile. Let go. Every hair you sweep away is a thought released. Every stain removed is a past regret softened. Every moment you spend in service of this space is a signal to the universe that you are making room, physically and spiritually, for something better. Because wealth, like clarity, doesn't grow in clutter. It flourishes where space is made, and where stillness is respected. And the bathroom, more than any other room, is where we begin again. Part 5, Water equals wealth, and where yours might be leaking. In Buddhist teachings, water often symbolizes compassion, fluid, adapting, nourishing. In Feng Shui, it carries another powerful meaning, money. And that makes perfect sense. Wealth, like water, needs to move. It needs direction, containment, and purity. A stagnant puddle grows algae. A leaking faucet slowly drains the well. The same happens with our finances, our energy, even our motivation. I remember staying at a small guest house in Kyoto during a research trip. The room was humble but peaceful, until I stepped into the bathroom. The sink dripped constantly. Just one drop every few seconds. I couldn't ignore it. That night, I barely slept. The rhythmic tapping echoed like a mantra, but not a calming one. It felt anxious, uneasy. The next morning, I asked the owner if she was aware. She sighed. It's been like that for months. It's on my list, but you know how things are. I did. I really did. Because I've seen this pattern before, in friends' homes, students' apartments, even consulting clients. The moment water starts leaking, so does energy. So does money. In Feng Shui, water represents the flow of life resources. That includes income, relationships, health, all things that need circulation. And when the water system in your home is compromised, it's often a mirror of something deeper being neglected. A dripping tap symbolizes financial loss, gradual, unnoticed, accumulating. A slow drain represents emotional stagnation, a difficulty in letting go. And worst of all, a clogged pipe indicates that your inner and outer life may be backed up with unresolved issues. One woman I worked with, a single mom juggling 2 jobs, told me she'd gotten used to her shower draining slowly. It's not a big deal, she said. But after we talked, she decided to clean it out and replace a loose pipe joint that had been leaking under her sink. The next week, she texted me, "I got a raise." Out of nowhere. Now, was it the pipe? Maybe not directly. But something shifted. Her home flowed again, so she did too. When you let water leak, you're telling the universe, I'm okay with slow loss. I'm okay with the drip, drip, drip of missed potential. But when you repair it, you send a different signal. I'm attentive. I value what I have. I'm ready to hold abundance with care. Here's what I recommend. Walk through your bathroom this week and listen. Any gurgling sounds? Check beneath the sink, around the toilet, and near the drain covers. Use mesh traps to catch debris. Clear out mineral buildup. If you can't fix it yourself, call someone. Consider it an investment in your future. Because when water flows clearly, money flows more freely. When pipes are sealed, your energy doesn't slip away in silence. And when you treat your plumbing like a sacred river, not just a utility, your whole home begins to hum with abundance. It's not superstition. It's awareness. And it begins with the sound of silence, after the last drop finally stops. Part 6, The 3 Mistakes That Drain Your Luck. Have you ever felt that no matter how hard you try, how many hours you put into your work, how much gratitude you practice, how much affirming you do, something still seems to weigh your fortune down? In my experience, it's rarely some grand curse or karmic punishment. More often, it's something smaller. Something you've walked past 100 times without noticing. Especially in the bathroom. Let me share with you 3 common Feng Shui mistakes I've personally witnessed in real homes. 3 quiet culprits that, once corrected, can open the door to energy, clarity, and yes, wealth. Mistake number 1, mirror facing the toilet. A few years ago, I visited an old friend who had just renovated his home. His bathroom was stunning, sleek tiles, golden lighting, a spa-like atmosphere. But the moment I stepped in, I felt unsettled. Then I saw it. A full-length mirror directly across from the toilet. In Feng Shui, mirrors are powerful amplifiers. They reflect and double whatever energy is in front of them. That's why placing a mirror across from a window with sunlight brings in more light. But placing it across from a toilet? That's a different story. The toilet is an energetic exit point. It carries away waste, both physical and energetic. When a mirror reflects that, it creates what's called yin reflection loop, a feedback cycle of heavy, low-frequency energy. Over time, this can lead to mental fog, poor digestion, tension in relationships, and yes, financial strain. It's subtle, but real. You don't have to tear the mirror down. Just soften the reflection. Hang a small curtain or vertical bamboo panel between the two. Use frosted or semi-opaque film on part of the mirror. Or simply move the mirror slightly if possible. Also, keep it clean. A smudged mirror reflects chaos. A cracked mirror reflects brokenness. Respect what it reflects back to you. Mistake number 2, houseplants in the bathroom. Now, I love plants. I've got peace lilies, snake plants, even a bonsai or two in my workspace. But I've learned, sometimes the best intentions can go energetically wrong. A client of mine once proudly showed me her bathroom, full of decorative vines and moisture-loving ferns. She said, I wanted to bring life into the space. But half the plants were yellowing. Mold had begun growing around the base of one pot. And tiny gnats flew near the drain. In Feng Shui, plants represent the wood element, growth, movement, ambition. Bathrooms are ruled by water, deep, heavy, fluid. And while water nourishes wood in theory, in excess, it drowns it. In a space with low sunlight, high humidity, and slow energy movement, plants can't thrive. Instead, they become receivers of stagnant qi. And when they begin to decay, they no longer symbolize life, but decline. So what's the solution? Use artwork of plants instead, vibrant, framed, symbolic. Or place a well-cared for small plant outside the bathroom door to bridge the energy zones. Mistake number 3, oversized trash bins without lids. This one might seem trivial, but it's more powerful than you'd think. I once stayed with a family who kept a large, open trash bin right next to their sink. It was convenient, they said. But every morning, as I washed my face, the smell, not awful, but lingering, interrupted my breath. It made me feel less refreshed. Almost agitated. In Feng Shui, trash represents decay energy, things that have completed their purpose, now decomposing. That's natural. But when it sits open and unchecked, it becomes a magnet for low vibration, sluggishness, irritation, even illness. Especially in bathrooms, already in heavy spaces, this amplifies imbalance. Here's what I suggest. Use a small trash bin with a tight lid. Empty it frequently, daily if possible. Sprinkle a little baking soda or sea salt inside for purification. Avoid overly dark or ornate bins. Choose light, clean designs. It may sound like a minor shift, but small acts of respect for space translate into self-respect. And the energy follows. Sometimes the things that drain our fortune aren't loud. They're quiet, familiar, habitual. We pass them every day, mirrors, plants, bins, and assume they don't matter. But in truth, they reflect what we tolerate, what we leave unchecked, and what we're ready, or not ready, to release. Fixing these 3 mistakes won't just rebalance your bathroom. It'll remind you that prosperity is a practice of attention, of care, and of choosing, every day, to keep the channels clear. Part 7, Sacred Routine, Turning Bathroom Time into a Dharma Practice. In most homes, the bathroom is treated as a purely functional space, a place to clean, flush, brush, and leave. We rush in, do what's needed, and move on. Rarely do we pause. Rarely do we breathe. And almost never do we treat it as sacred. But what if we did? What if, instead of seeing it as a place of disposal, we saw it as a place of release? Not just of physical waste, but of tension, thought patterns, past selves? A monk once told me, every corner of the home can be a monastery, if you enter it mindfully. And the bathroom, oddly enough, might be the most potent place to begin. Here's how you can turn your weekly bathroom cleaning into a spiritual ritual. Not just to maintain Feng Shui, but to nurture your own inner field of clarity. 1. Choose a time and protect it. Set aside one morning or evening each week, perhaps Sunday at sunrise, or Friday night when the world quiets. This is your reset moment. You're not just tidying a room. You're preparing a space for energy to flow and mind to soften. 2. Light and sound. Before beginning, open a window or light a stick of sandalwood incense. Let the scent mark a shift in intention. Play soft instrumental music, flute, Tibetan bowls, or simple ambient tones. Let your senses know, this is not a chore. This is care. 3. Clean with presence. As you wipe the tiles, don't rush. Watch how your hand moves. Breathe through each stroke. If negative thoughts arise, let them pass like soap bubbles. When you rinse the sink, imagine you're rinsing yesterday's fatigue. When you scrub the corners, imagine dissolving old patterns. Your breath is your mantra. Your body is your tool. Your space is your mirror. 4. Finish with intention. Once clean, place your yellow towel gently back where it belongs. Adjust the mirror. Replace the light bulb if needed. And stand silently for a moment, just to feel the shift. Whisper to yourself something simple, like, may this space support clarity, peace, and abundance. It doesn't have to be religious. But it must be real. The deeper truth. You see, when you treat even the unseen parts of your home with care, you're sending a message to your spirit. Nothing is too small for reverence. And from that space of reverence, wealth flows, not just through dollars, but through stability, clarity, and joy. Because prosperity doesn't begin in the bank account. It begins where you decide to see your life as sacred, tile by tile, breath by breath. Part 8, Lessons in Stillness. Wealth grows in the most forgotten corners. There's something quietly profound about the spaces we ignore. The back of the cabinet. The edge of the floor tile. The old light bulb that flickers just enough to tolerate. And yes, the bathroom, that one room we move through daily without a second thought. But if this journey has shown us anything, it's this: what we neglect holds power. Not because it's cursed. Not because it's broken. But because within stillness lies potential. In Buddhism, we speak of suchness, the sacred quality of things just as they are. A cup of tea. A quiet breath. A beam of warm light on a floor tile. And when we bring attention to those ordinary moments, we awaken their extraordinary energy. Your bathroom may not seem like the place to plant prosperity. But what is wealth, really? It's the feeling of being supported. Of moving through life without resistance. Of walking into a space and knowing, I belong here. I am cared for here. I can breathe. When you take the time to purify your bathroom, not just clean it, but consecrate it, you're aligning your outer world with your inner clarity. You're showing the universe that you are ready to receive, because you've made room. So let this be your quiet revolution. Place that yellow towel with care. Fix the faucet. Light the candle. Close the toilet lid with intention. Breathe in. Breathe out. And let that be your wealth practice. Not all change begins with ambition. Some change begins in stillness. In the most forgotten corner of your home. Where silence becomes sacred, and energy starts to flow. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to share a positive affirmation in the comments below. Something simple, like, I am ready for peaceful prosperity. Or, I create space for abundance to find me. And if you haven't yet, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, so you don't miss the next step on this journey. Together, let's continue transforming our homes, our habits, and our hearts, one mindful breath at a time.